Yo, what is going on? It is James, aka the Comic Raider, and we are back with our weekly trade review, trade rant. I am trying to go through, you can see the case there. I want to read all of my trades. And so I'm going to start in order. So we're at Batman right now. DC's at the top on this shelf over here. So we've got Batman, and it is in alphabetical order. So we're going to be doing a lot of Batman here to cover. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Batman is my favorite hero, so it only makes sense that we start with Batman. So, with that said, we have got Batman: A Death in the Family, the groundbreaking classic. And I understand that this has many, many different formats and has been reprinted many different times. So we're going to review not only the story itself, but also this trade in particular. So from what it looks like, this trade originates from 2011. This in particular is a fifth printing from 2013, but that is about the era it looks like. So that is when this one was published. I say that because I'm sure that what gets included in this trade changes from time to time. This one in particular is going to cover Batman 426 through 429, A Death in the Family storyline, but then also 440 through 442, and then the new Teen Titans 60 and 61, because they also give you the Lonely Place of Dying. They give you the not only the Death in the Family, but the follow-up. They introduce the new Robin. And then it also says that it gives you a 2006 follow-up story from Batman Annual 25, as well as a new afterword by writer Marv Wolfman. Now, I'm going to tell you right now that the follow-up story from Annual 25, that's kind of misleading. It's really only a picture. I don't know that it's a story, I would say. But I do really like this trade. Again, I'm not familiar if new copies of this come with the Lonely Place of Dying follow-up, but I really like this version because not only do you get the death of one Robin, but you get the full introduction of a new one, and I really like that. So here is this. Now, compared to my last video, we're just going to make this about one trade, so we're going to spend a lot more time here on this one single trade, which will be a good time. So, here of course is your cover, Death in the Family. And this is one I've read many times. So this is a revisit for me, but it is still great every time. So you got Jason Todd, and you know, even in this first issue they do a good job of showing you how he's always so quick to just jump into action and not really be careful. You know, he was always you know, he was, I don't want to say like the bad boy, but he definitely was, oh gosh, I don't even know the term that I'm looking for, but he was just about that action, all right? He didn't, you know, he wanted to jump into things, and that's what gets him in trouble a lot. He can be very angry, so, you know, Batman talks about grounding him and removing him from being Robin for the time being, and so Jason gets very upset. He essentially runs away, and he's going to go look for his mom. He finds out that, because he gets a box, I believe, right? He gets a box from a lady, and he's from like a neighbor, and he learns that his name, his mother's name, is not what he thought on his birth certificate. So he learns that who he grew up with Catherine Todd being his mother, and she's not really his mother. So he essentially tracks down 3 potential women that could be his mother, and they are all in like Europe or something like that, different parts of Europe or something. Meanwhile, Batman is going after the Joker, and the Joker is basically in the same area, because the Joker was like trying to make money. He's selling a plane like a military aircraft because he's just trying to make some money. And so that's how they all kind of end up in the same place. So again, the story is just Batman out there doing Batman things, trying to stop the Joker. Meanwhile, again, they just so happen to all be in the same area because Jason is trying to find his mother. And he tracks down one of the same ladies. I think, like, what, 3 of them were all spies. One of them was Sharman Rosen, an Israeli secret agent, Shiva Wusan, a suspected mercenary, and Dr. Sheila Haywood. One of them is in Peru, and another one is in Ethiopia, and so he tells Bruce this, and that is why he is here, and Batman is saying that he has to deal with the nuclear threat that is the Joker. And so then they end up finding, who do they find first? Sharman Rosen, who's the secret agent, and she's basically with the same person that Batman's looking for. So they're kind of running the same deal at this point. And so they go to this meet where the Joker is trying to sell the arms, and then shenanigans ensue, and they have to stop the Joker. And then obviously the mother's like getting involved because she's a secret agent in this, right? So after all is said and done, so you have Joker blows up the missiles, but I think the nuclear part, he had dismantled, and so the nuclear part, the warhead did not detonate. But the Joker gets away, and now he's realizing, like, damn, I am broke. Now what am I gonna do? And so then they ask the lady if she has ever had a kid, and she says no. So Jason realizes that, okay, that is not my mother, so we're going to move on to the next person. And the next person is going to be Shiva, who is in Ethiopia? Or no, in Lebanon. They go to Lebanon, and they're going to meet up with Shiva, who is Lady Shiva. Meanwhile, the Joker skips ahead to the last woman. He goes to Ethiopia to find Sheila Haywood. So again, the stories are interchanging here. And he finds Sheila, and he talks her into, you're in charge of distribution of all medical supplies. Give me some of those supplies so that I can sell them, essentially. And he talks her into it because she has a background of doing some shady stuff back in Gotham, but she's quote-unquote turned her life around at this point. And then fast forward to Batman and Robin. They're handling the other issue. They're basically taking down a bunch of guys, and then they end up finding Lady Shiva, and you have a really, really good battle between her and Batman. I mean, this is action, action, action. Great fight between the two of them. And, then Robin gets involved as well. So, really love this part of the story if you're into action. And then, I think they beat her by... He knocks her out. He knocks her out, and then I think they go to give her, like, truth serum because she starts messing with them for a minute. So then they give him the truth serum. Oh, because she laughs and says, like, I've had babies all over the world, blah, blah, blah. And then he gives her the truth serum, and then she says no. So now he realizes, okay, well, it's not her either. And so now they're going to go get, they're going to go to Ethiopia to go get Sheila. And then you get this moment here, very sad, as they discuss the famine and all that stuff that's going on there. And so now Jason's like, well, that has to be my mom. I know that it's my mom. So, but fast forward, and again, they don't know that she is in cahoots right now with the Joker, and that she's going to get the Joker what he needs. So again, they're kind of handling both of these things at the same time. Batman tells him, look, I need you. I have to take off after that truck. I have to stop the Joker. You need to stay here, and Joker is too dangerous. You need to wait for me. Jason does it. Jason decides, I'm gonna go talk to Sheila, and then he ends up, dun dun dun, he gets set up by Sheila. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I totally just realized, I mean, we're going over the trade, so there's spoilers involved here, alright? I'm sorry. But, yeah, so he gets set up by the Joker, and the Joker then proceeds to beat the living hell out of that boy. And it is just a very, it doesn't matter how many times you read this story, this moment will always stick with you. It is just violence. It is a defining moment for the Joker and for Batman and Robin and just everything. And yeah, I mean, that image right there, or that series of panels, is just insane, man. I forgot what Sheila was saying about she tells him that she lied because she can't afford to have him stirring up trouble. She's been dipping into the medical funds herself, so if he blows the whistle on Joker, then they're going to investigate, and then they're going to find her as also being bad. So unfortunately, his mom was kind of a bad woman and into some bad stuff, and so that's what leads to it. And in the end, Joker ends up betraying her too, because he plants the bomb, he ties her up, and then you have this countdown. And even with all that, Jason still doesn't want to give up on her, and he wants to try and save the both of them. And you have a very dramatic countdown and a beat to crap Jason. So technically speaking, I mean, yeah, he was beaten to hell with a crowbar, but he wasn't beaten to death with a crowbar, because really, in all actuality, it's the explosion that finishes him off. And unfortunately, Batman is on the way, and then sees it, and is like, oh my goodness. And you get this moment of, oh my god, no. Just heartbreaking, man. And so then you have the epic page of call this number to have him die, call this number to have him live. And so then it gives you kind of like a little bit of a recount of Jason and how they met. Meanwhile, Batman is going through the rubble. So this is kind of like a recap part. And then as they're recapping, he finds Sheila, and then Sheila tells him, and then they recap the previous issue, and then Sheila is like, Jason tried to rescue me, we almost made it, he turned out to be such a good kid, he's much better than I deserve. And then she ends up really dying, and then he continues to search through the rubble, and boom, he finds the dead body. Now, you know what, I totally forgot, there is a panel when Joker beats him that is just crazy, because again, not only is him beating him just bad enough, but I mean, well, I guess I did show this page, but I didn't focus on it. I mean, after he's done beating him, on the next page, the blood on the crowbar, you see the body laying there on the ground, and then on the next page you really see the body there on the ground, covered in blood. I mean, it's a violent ass story, man. And so then you have, he finds him, picks him up, hugs his cold, lifeless body, and man, oh man. And then you get the image there that will set up Batman and Robin for forever. And then, it leads to Joker meeting with someone, and then he's gonna end up being a, what's the term? So they have the funeral for Jason, and then you get this moment of Batman and Superman. Superman says, look, I'm sorry for what happened, but what I really came down here to tell you is that Iran has a new ambassador that will be going to the UN. This person has diplomatic immunity, meaning no one can go after him. And he's like, who is it? Who is it? And then he punches Superman, even though it pretty much breaks his knuckles. But he knows. He knows who it's going to be. even though he doesn't like it, but that is going to be the Joker, who now has found a way to not only beat Jason to death, but then, well, beat him and then blow him up to death. But he also is going to be, he's free now. And then they have a meeting with a guy who's basically just reiterating that Batman cannot touch him. And then Batman explains that the Joker just killed Jason, and they're still like, I'm sorry, but you still can't do anything. Superman is here to basically keep you in check. And so Bruce Wayne is going to get into... he has a meeting with the Joker. The two of them talk, exchange words, and then, the Joker is just, man. He says, I'll give you one last chance, return to Arkham and turn yourself in. He goes, and if I don't, what are you going to do about it? Let your assistant handle it? With that nasty smirk on his face and the laughing. I'd have loved to seen your face when you found what was left of the brat. Man. He is just... So, he definitely, brings it up to him. But in that conversation, Joker obviously admits to being the one. And so Batman says, thank you. I wasn't absolutely certain that you were the one, but now I know that it was you. And so then anyways, they go to this UN meeting. Of course, Batman knows that the Joker's onto something. Also, the way that the Joker is drawn is just outstanding in this one. But yeah, so he knows the Joker's up to something. You get a really good speech here by the Joker. And then you get him, he's of course going to attack. And he unleashes the tear gas. But then... the laughing gas, but then Superman is in disguise and he inhales everything, but then the Joker ends up just blowing everything up anyways, because he always has a backup plan. People get shot, Batman and him fight, he tries to get away in a helicopter, Batman goes after him, and the helicopter eventually ends up crashing. Superman gets Batman out of the water, and the Joker's pretty much gone. And so, as always, it's unresolved, as Batman says. Now, this I do want to focus on. This is the afterword that they're talking about with Marv Wolfman. I don't know if this is included in all of them, so I do want to spend some time on this because this is just outstanding. He talks about how, him and George Perez start the new Teen Titans in 1980, and they age up Dick Grayson. They make him Nightwing. And he just loves doing that, and that he's a team leader now. Flash forward to 1983, Batman books want a Robin back. They wanted to de-age Dick Grayson, but he says that he loved writing him. So in a move motivated by greed, I suggested that it would be wrong to do that, and why don't you just make a new Robin? And so then he said, I'd change Dick's hero name in the Titans to something else, Nightwing. He'd grown up and would now want his own name, and then they can do a new Robin. And so then they come up with Jason Todd, and Jason Todd is now Robin. Then he says, fast forward to 1988, Jason Todd's now been murdered, and there is no Batman again. So again, he gets a call about what do they do, and he says, but why not have a Robin who wanted to be not Batman? See, the others they were Robin, but they wanted to grow up, right? They want to grow up, they want to be their own, hence Nightwing and stuff. What if we make a kid who, he wants to be Robin? He doesn't want Batman, the pressure of being Batman. He just wants to be Robin. Create a character who was so smart that he could deduce that Dick Grayson was Robin, and then that means that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Tim Drake, named for upcoming Batman director Tim Burton, was brilliantly trained himself to become Robin, and makes him completely different from all the previous sidekicks. He'd also have his own family outside of the lead character. His mother and father have no connection to Bruce and the company. DC liked my take and had me put together a story to introduce him, yada yada yada. And then, as for the story, I wanted to use my favorite Batman villain, Two-Face. If there were ever a villain who needed to be psychoanalyzed, it's Harvey Dent's alter ego. And so he wants to explore all that with the two and the duality. Tried to put together a story that would make the readers like Tim almost from day one. That would also make them realize that Batman needed a partner, not only to fight bad guys, but to stay human and remember why he's doing what he's doing. And I always liked him. I thought that giving him his own family made him stand apart from all the kid heroes we'd seen before. I thought that making him want to be the sidekick and not the main hero meant that he would not be riddled with angst, already steadily, and then he like puts like slash, already steadily creeping into comics, slash, meaning like that was the era of these characters who were acting in that way. But that he would enjoy what he was doing. Fans had not always appreciated Jason Todd, and it was risky to introduce another Robin and hope the readers would take to him. But 20 years later, Tim's still fighting the good fight. Now we're even further. Now we're probably, 10 more years after that? So then that's when they jump into Batman 440. But I just love that. I love the story of, like, you know, why do we get, you know, the way in which we got these new Robins and everything like that. I love it. So anyways, you know, this story is also really, really good. Batman is he's crazy. He's just going out, he's acting reckless, he's getting injured a lot because he's acting reckless, and it's because he's still dealing with the loss of Robin. And so it's just a really good story. And then you've got this big story with Two-Face going on. I am going to rush through this part, but then you also have a big story with someone calling the Teen Titans because they're trying to get a hold of Dick Grayson, and they know, and you don't realize it yet, but it is Tim Drake. And so then Dick Grayson goes to find his old circus, and you get this moment where the circus is in shambles, and everyone's like acting up. You get a moment where the lion goes crazy and attacks and kills the lion trainer, but Dick Grayson saves them. But then they have to figure out who did it, and this is when Tim and Dick Grayson first meet, and he kind of levels with him and is like, look, I know who you are. And Dick Grayson ends up solving who killed him, but you know, the two of them are like, look, like, Batman needs you. He really needs you. Tim Drake is trying to get Dick Grayson back, just like how DC was trying to get Dick Grayson back at a time to be Robin. And so then you get this issue, which is, again, just more diving into the whole Two-Face situation. I do think this part was really cool. Both of them are planning to trap one another, and it's like a very similar dialogue that they're each having to the monologues that they're having to themselves. Dick Grayson takes Tim Drake to the mansion, and then he's like, look, Alfred, this kid already knows everything. Like, there's no point in hiding it. And then he tries to level with Dick Grayson and tell him, like, look, dude, here's how I figured out everything. And I was there that day when your parents died and everything, and I was able to put two and two together and figure everything out. And look, Batman really needs you. And Dick Grayson's like, no, like, eventually what it leads to through all this is, like, he's gonna go as Nightwing. He's not going as Robin. He's gonna go as Nightwing. But you can see that it building of, like, but we need a Robin. We need a Robin. We need a Robin. You also get the Teen Titans a couple issues in here, which, again, is more focused on Dick Grayson himself. And he's trying to find Batman. And so then he finally finds Batman. You have this cool moment where Batman admits that he needs his help. They're going to go after... I thought that was a really cool panel. Or page, I should say. You just get this really cool, awesome moment of the two of them working together to figure out this Two-Face mystery. They end up getting trapped. They end up having to fight their way... Well, they end up getting trapped, actually. Not fight their way out. They end up getting trapped. And it ends up being... Well, someone has to go save them. Well, we got this Tim Drake kid here, so we're going to send Tim Drake out. Tim Drake dons the costume, and he's going to go and save them. And so he gets there, and Two-Face is just blowing shit up. They have a fight. Alfred even gets involved in this scrap, but he kind of is like, okay, so this kid puts up a fight. He knows what he's doing, and then he ends up finding both Batman and Nightwing. There's this moment where he's like, you know, Batman says, you're no Robin, and then he goes to walk away from him, and he's like, Bruce, please listen to me. And Batman's like, what did you just say? And he's like, I know you're Bruce Wayne. and I know Nightwing's Dick Grayson, and I know what happened to Jason Todd. And so then you have all of them just talking. You have this big argument. I like that moment there. Dick Grayson's like, look, this kid's about to give his spiel to Batman. Tim Drake levels with Batman. He explains everything that he knows. He also explains that, you are a symbol. He gives him the talk of, you're a symbol. Robin was a symbol. You need a Robin. And, Alfred says, that boy should be a politician. And it takes a lot of convincing, but they end up going back to the mansion, and they end up... Oh, actually, they finish the fight with Two-Face. And then after they finish the fight with Two-Face, now at this point, Tim Drake has not only shown Batman that he's put everything together, but he's also able to escape a near-death moment, and he's able to talk Batman into letting him be Robin. And Batman's like, look, we're going to take this a day at a time, okay? Day at a time. I'm not ready to rush into anything yet. And then the Joker gets a call, and he realizes that he's like, what a shame. He's got a new brat, though. Still, easy come, easy go. And so, yeah, that's pretty much where that one ends off. Here is the annual thing that they're talking about. Basically, all they did was show you this panel of what would have been the page had he survived. It just says, he's alive, thank God, and then he puts him in a truck and he saves him. So, like I said, not really a story, but more just like a page from that. But, yeah, that's my recap of this. Again, if I do these, because hopefully you guys watch them and enjoy them, and hopefully I break it down enough to where you can enjoy this, whether you've read it or not read it. But ideally also, I say this all the time, so I'm going to repeat it again, my memory isn't that great, so I want to do all these so that, maybe if I don't have time to necessarily read a whole trade again, I can go back and watch this video and refresh my own memory of a storyline. So, that is the breakdown of Batman, A Death in the Family. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a sneak peek at what is next on next week's. We're going to do Batman Arkham Asylum, Sirius House on Sirius Earth. This one is not a revisit for me. This was the first time that I've ever read this storyline. So we are going to go over this, and then we'll see what comes next. But that's all for now. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for the love and support. Until next time, Comic Raider is out, baby. Deuces.